Hello, Nathan. Would you like to play a game?
Oh, hell no! I am out!
Well, this is embarrassing.
All right, Lilu, it's that time again. Buckle up. Let's talk Saw X. Like the X-Men, like you, Lilu. Saw X marks the 10th entry in the infamous Saw franchise. I've got to admit, I've never been a fan of the torture porn genre, popularized by the likes of Saw and Hostel. Gruesome acts like self-amputation just don't scare me. They're more about shock value than true horror. I prefer my horror with complex metaphors or classic campy slasher vibes. That being said, I initially explored the Saw series out of curiosity when the first film hit the screens. While I still don't quite enjoy the excessively brutal traps, the overarching story did manage to grab my attention. It's akin to a soap opera, full of twists and turns, but with a tad bit more body dismemberment. There's something intriguing about Jigsaw, a man suffering from cancer who lives by a unique moral code that is compelling as a horror figure. And he likes to play games. Lilu and I love to play games as well, like Fetch, which is much less violent. Although, there was that one time. Tobin Bell's portrayal of Jigsaw played a significant role in Saw's initial success, and unfortunately, the franchise suffered after they prematurely killed him off. After skipping a few installments, my curiosity got piqued again with Spiral, due to the casting of Samuel L. Jackson and Chris Rock. How could that go wrong? Well, they found a way. And now we've reached the 10th installment, where Hollywood studios, driven by obvious financial gains and greed, realized their mistake in killing off Jigsaw, aka John Kramer. Their brilliant plan to resurrect him? Simply set the movie between the events of Saw 1 and Saw 2, as John Kramer receives his cancer diagnosis and hopes to find a cure in Mexico. Oh, don't worry, Lilu. The filmmakers make it very easy for you to understand the difference between Mexico and the U.S. See? Now we are in Mexico. Now in the U.S. Mexico. U.S. Mexico. U.S. Mexico. It's a good thing that Mexico naturally has a yellow filter in all films, or things could get confusing. Saw X had my attention when I heard Tobin Bell was returning as Jigsaw. To my shock, it took until the 10th movie for Saw to evolve into an actually real movie. Yes, an actual story unfolds, offering a deeper understanding of the John Kramer character and why he was inspired to build these traps. You might even find yourself sympathizing with this deranged serial killer, rooting for him more than his victims throughout most of the film. While these movies primarily serve as vehicles for gruesome torture scenes, this particular installment genuinely feels story-driven rather than solely fixated on the traps. Tobin Bell, at 81 years old, delivers a compelling, nuanced, and vulnerable performance that brings Saw to a new level. He is so great in this movie. It's also wonderful to have his original accomplice, Amanda, played by Shawnee Smith, back in the picture, shedding light on their relationship in a more dramatic and detailed way. The traps themselves in this installment feel more personalized, like consequences of the victim's own crimes. The presence of John Kramer observing them eye to eye on the killing floor adds weight to these moments. I also like seeing Amanda's contemplation of Jigsaw's moral code and their discussions between traps, which added complexity to their characters and the overall story. Don't worry, fans of the series still get their fair share of gore. The new traps all properly horrific and should satisfy the bloodlust. Overall, I was genuinely impressed with this movie. To inject real character depth and story development into a franchise on its 10th sequel is absolutely commendable and unheard of. I did have one real major issue with the Dr. Peterson character, but that is definitely spoiler territory, so I'll explain that after my rating. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Saw X, the 10th film in the series, gets a green light. Of course, this is for people who like Saw type of films to begin with. If you can't watch gruesome horror traps, then this still isn't for you. But for a Saw film fan, it might as well be The Godfather. Now for my major issue with the film. Spoilers ahead, so come back if you haven't seen it. We're not going anywhere. I felt throughout Saw X that Dr. Peterson's character was cartoonishly evil, and she literally felt like a Bond villain at some points. She not only puts John Kramer in his own trap, but also an innocent little boy. Perhaps a wee bit too much, Lilu. This is a woman scamming dying cancer patients. I didn't know that also meant she was a sadistic killer. Why would she want an innocent boy or her own accomplices to die? She's just a scam artist. She also mercilessly stomps on a fellow accomplice's neck, despite passing Jigsaw's test and earning her life by his moral code. Even Amanda is screaming at her like she is a monster. Wait, who is the villain again? Okay, I get it. Dr. Peterson had to break bad in a huge way for us as viewers to root for Jigsaw. Okay, I'll let that slide. I get that Dr. Peterson had to turn into a major antagonist for us to side with Jigsaw. But I feel like her punishment in the context of the Saw universe doesn't match her crimes. All things considered, Dr. Peterson gets off far too lightly for a psycho killer without remorse. No surgically removing part of her brain or pushing her face through barbed wire, not even so much as a cut off pinky toe. Dr. Peterson gets off with a slap on the wrist. I'm not usually rooting for the bloodlust, but now is the time, Jigsaw. This lady deserves it.
You, let's play a game. If you raise your ball, the trap will release a dog treat, but will also turn off the vehicle's brakes, and the car will likely crash. If you do not raise your ball, then you do not get a dog treat. Choose, but choose wisely.
Why would anyone endanger me, your precious owner, who bought you a dog costume? Why are you raising your paw? Didn't you hear what he said? Holy shit!